thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in to the question time. And what we'd really appreciate now, actually, especially because we are good to go, is if you're watching live. I can see there's quite a few people watching live at the moment. Why don't you share the link undebbangor.com/QT on your social medias and get more and more people watching, because this is the opportunity for people to question the candidates for president for next year and to hear what they've got to say. So even if they haven't got a question, they can still hear what they have to say. This will also be published after the event as well, and so you can watch it back. But yeah, share that link for us. So I'm going to say one more time, because we haven't had enough questions in. Please use that Q&A box on the side to pop any questions for our candidates there. We want as many questions as possible in there for us to ask the candidates, because next year is going to be a strange year. This is a by-election, and so we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to question these candidates and pick the candidate that is right for you when voting opens. And voting opens straight after this event at undebbangor.com/elections. So that's where you'll go to make your vote, and it will open straight after the question time. So the way the question time is going to work is that I'm going to be chairing it. So I'm Rob, I'm the Student Voice Manager at the Students' Union, and we're going to get each of our candidates on the screen to answer these questions for you. They'll also have a 2-minute speech as well before we kick off with the questions. Now, just bear with us as we get the candidates on the screen. So obviously you don't want to see me when they're doing their speeches or when they're answering the questions. So what we'll do, we'll flip it over. So there might be a slight delay there where we get them on the screen and then they'll be able to answer the questions. And also, just to let you know, one of our candidates, Katie, who has been having technical issues, she is suffering from a bit poorly at the moment, a little bit ill. So please bear with Katie, and we may well, if she needs a little time during the questions, we will pause the clock for her, because there will be time limits on the questions and the speeches, but it might be that we pause the clock there because Katie's ill at the moment. Okay, great. So we're gonna start with the speeches then. So each of the candidates has 2 minutes to basically let us know and let you know why they would like to be your president next year. So we're going to start off with Alec Mitroudis. So Alec Mitroudis, are you okay to go with your speech? We'll get you on the screen and I'll let you know when we've got you on the screen. Okay, so we've got Alex on the screen now. So Alex, when you're ready to go, you can go.
Just to be sure, can everyone hear me or see me? Everything?
Yeah, we can see you. You're good to go.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I'm not quite sure how to begin. So I do believe in a strong union among students and university personally. I mean, even during these difficult times. I aspire to be a president people can depend on. I mean, with big dreams and ideas regarding our university I will fight for them. So we can all aim, I guess, for a brighter future. Next year is not going to be easy, I expect. However, I want to work hard so we can all feel accepted here at Bangor and evolve both physically and mentally. Of course, by focusing on a cleaner environment or like keeping our distances, and of course, transferring all the curriculum into a practical online form that will be useful for everyone to use. I would like to focus on education personally. Of course, I know that it's going to be hard for the next year, but I wish we could create a platform where students and university, everyone could share like their ideas, or students between them could give talks to one another and exchange ideas that already exist. I personally have never done anything like this before. I have been a leader in groups and teams in my life. But apart from that, I do have my seminars degree like in art, like board game design, and I know business. And I hope you will vote for me. And that's all.
Cool. Thank you very much, Alec.
Thank you.
We'll do a round of applause because we don't have an audience, unfortunately, that can give you a bit of a round of applause, do we, to hear from? Cool. So thank you very much, Alec. We'll move next to Henry. So can we get Henry on the screen? And we've got 2 minutes, Henry. We'll let you know when you're up and ready.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name's Henry Williams. Obviously, some of you might know me this year as the VP of Sport. I've been VP of Sport of Undeb Bangor this year in the most recent election and was the VP of Sport for last year. I'm running for the role of president in the by-election at the moment, obviously given the circumstances. I feel like at this moment, probably more so than ever, it is crucially important that the student union has a president that can fight for the issues for the student body. I think that there's a crucial comparison to be made around having someone that thoroughly understands the situation in terms of what's going on, but as well as someone who also understands the structures and the processes of the university as to allow them to effectively do that role as much as possible. I feel like my biggest thing across the year with the athletic union was all around that engagement piece and hearing from students directly on the ground. Obviously, limited capacity at which to do that at the start of the year. And whilst it's important to sort of recognise that coronavirus and all that stuff that's going on at the moment is going to dominate the start of the year, it's important for the SU to maintain its scope for development. Some of the things that I would like to achieve in the short term is that I would like to ensure that your academic delivery standard of delivery remains high, and that you're not suffering throughout any of these circumstances. I would look to continue to take the lead on providing clear updates to students that are open and transparent so that you guys know what's going on. Something that's really close to my heart is that I'd obviously look to safeguard club societies and volunteering projects as to allow them to continue as soon as possible in a safe manner and push the student experience further onto the agenda. I'd look to keep the university executive team up to date with any emerging issues, but crucially ensure action is taken through the methods that we can influence the university. Obviously, having had experience and oversight on the athletic union budget.
Start to wrap it up, please, Henry.
Sure. Obviously, I'd look to scrutinise the entirety of the SU budget. I think the two things moving forward that's crucial is experience and the understanding of what's going on, and I feel like I can provide that. But please make sure you vote on following this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Henry.
Cheers, Rob.
Cool. We're going to have a round of applause for each of the candidates, just so there's like an audience. We'll move on to Katie Lloyd now. So as you will be aware, if you've joined us earlier on, Katie, we're sharing a screen to get Katie with us because Katie's had a few technical issues. So if that's why the screen might look a bit different to the other people. So if we could pop Katie on the screen, we'll let you know when you're ready to go, Katie. Okay, and if you make sure you unmute yourself, Katie, and give us a hello just to make sure we can hear you, because I know.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. So, Katie, when you start your speech, I'll press the timer. So, ready when you are.
Okay. So, hi, I'm Katie Lloyd. I'm a sociology and social policy graduate. Some of you might know me because I ran for the VP Societies and Volunteering back in March. I do have experience with the opportunities, obviously, but also with the wider university, and I have liaised with the university and the SU with events in the past. So my main things that I want to do if I do get elected is obviously the environment and sustainability. I do want to cut down on unnecessary printing, completely get rid of disposable plastics and build on previous successes to ensure safe, clean drinking water in every university building across both campuses. I also want to let the university know how great our bonds are with the local community, because at the moment they don't know exactly what we do out there. So I want to make sure that the university does know everything, and that you guys and your sort of societies and projects and clubs are taken into account throughout obviously all of the decisions that come with what's going on. I also want to help opportunities thrive throughout all of this and to get back on their feet after. The same with education. I want to improve inclusivity, as I don't think everyone will be able to cope very well with everything being online. Unfortunately, not much we can do, but obviously I want to make sure that everyone does have equal access to everything that the university can offer, and we do come back bigger and better after all of this. And of course I want to celebrate diversity. We have a great amount of diversity in the university, and I do want to push for the rest of the community in the university to know exactly what we do at Undeb, and to put you guys at the forefront of every single decision that we make.
Cool. Thank you very much, Katie.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up we have William Miller. So if we could get William on the screen, and I'll let you know when you're good to go, William. Okay, Will, we're ready when you are.
Hi, I'm Will. I'm a law graduate who's just graduated this year, and I'm running to be your SU president. So as for what I'd like to do this year, the first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce a tenancy support clinic. Housing issues are something extremely important to me, and so I'd like to introduce this weekly clinic, initially online before the COVID situation is more clear in terms of when we can meet in person, along with sort of easy access to email for out of hours for people who have these issues. Talking of COVID, it would be silly to suggest that that's not going to be the defining issue for the Students' Union this year. So what I would like to do is I would like to initially push for the university to maintain their online teaching and learning and making sure that everybody has the correct access to the same, before pushing for them to increase online face-to-face teaching and learning as soon as it's safe for them to do so, as soon as government and scientific advice suggest that's the correct thing to do. I'd also like to make sure that the clubs and societies within the Students' Union have the resources they need to maintain their activities in a safe manner before it's safe for them to meet properly like they would have done last year. I'd also like to increase the online events such as De-Stressival. Obviously, while it's not safe for people to meet in person, I'd like to maintain and increase these events online because the impacts of COVID and the lockdown period on people's mental health are enormous. So I'd like to maintain and promote that. I'd also like to promote the work of the university's counselling service. And finally, I'd also like to talk about the possibility of extra waste collections at the end of the year. The last 2 years that I was in private accommodation in Bangor, I found the end of the year would be a 2-week period of realising there was too much stuff that I couldn't get rid of, facing fines, facing things like this. So I'd like to talk with the local council about introducing these extra collections, etc., to make sure there's no issue for students come the end of their tenancy. But yeah, I'd just like to reiterate that even if you don't vote for me as your first choice, it's important that you do make your voice heard with your voting as soon as this session ends. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Will. And last by no means least, we'll move to Saqib Imran Ali. So we'll just get Saqib up on the screen, so bear with us. Okay, Saqib, we're ready when you are. Oh, Saqib, I think you're muted. If you want to unmute yourself, There we go. And you can start again, that's fine.
Hi everyone, I'm Saqib Imran Ali, and I am an MSc student in Conservation and Land Management. Prior to this one-year MSc program, I worked as a volunteer on behalf of the Student Union. Also, I was partially worked as a volunteer with the British Red Cross shop here in Bangor. And also, in addition, I was a course rep of Conservation and Land Management. So, prior to all this post, I became interested in to be the next elected president for Student Union, and my main task of the Student Union is to just help those upcoming internationals, both the international and the local students who will be studying in Bangor in September, despite this pandemic situation, which is a never-ending story. So I believe, being the president, I can help them out to tackle all the issues that they will have during this COVID-19 situation, as I stated earlier, which is a never-ending story. In addition, after when the COVID-19 situation will be eased down, I will forward as to work in this short period of time. First of all, to tackle the issues that are related with climate change. Being such as me being as an environment graduate, I will just deal with all the environment-related issues, starting from the waste disposals and plastic materials which have been hampering the environment as well as the rest of the issues. So to know if you think that I'm the right candidate for the vote, please vote for me for this staff election. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saqib. Okay, so now we're going to move to the questions part of our event. So we've had a few questions coming in online during this event, and we've had some beforehand. Please keep submitting those in. Just because you submit them now doesn't mean that they won't get answered. There are some themes coming out too, so if your question isn't asked entirely like you said it, it's because there's a few come in then around that general theme. So we've got a team working in the background to work through those questions. So I'll move to the first question then, which has come in. So candidates, you're going to have 1.5 minutes to answer this question. So you'll have 1.5 minutes each for this one. So the question is, why did you decide to stand for the role? Does it link to your manifesto? And if so, how? So that question is, why did you decide to stand for the role? Does it link to your manifesto? And if so, how? So like I said, you've got 1.5 minutes for this one, and we'll start with William Miller. So should we get William up? Okay, William, when you're ready.
Well, as for why I decided to run for the role, it was a case of I saw the by-election was coming up and I thought that, you know, I could improve and maintain the student experience in what is a very uncertain time for everybody. Does it link to my manifesto? Not particularly. I'll be the first to say that, because I think my manifesto is less about why I want to run for the role, because I think that's less important than what I can do for the student body in the role. You know, the ideas that I have maybe aren't connected to the reason that I ran, but I think that, you know, with the skills and experience that I have, you know, I've worked with the SU and the AU as a committee member on both societies and in a sports club over the last year. I've worked with the university as a peer guide, as a head peer guide. And so I think that experience, plus the ideas that I have in terms of, you know, trying to push the university into making sure everything is transparent and is translated and distributed to students in a timely manner. I think that all of that together is my idea. It's trying to protect the student experience for the coming year, and that's why I feel, or that's what I'd like to do in this coming year. Thanks very much.
Great, thank you very much, Will. So we'll move next to Henry Williams. So if we can get Henry up on the screen. Okay, ready when you are, Henry? Yeah,
absolutely. So in terms of why I wanted to run for the role, it's one of those things where I've worked within the student union now for a year already. And sort of given the circumstances of what's going on at the moment, I could recognise the importance of what the SU president would be doing actively throughout the year, especially early on when a lot of big decisions are going to be made. And it was me then that recognised that I felt that the SU president's got to be able to effectively represent the students is one aspect of it. But then the second aspect is that they need the understanding of how the university works and how to conduct themselves on these meetings and panels, etc., to get the most out of what they're trying to achieve. I suppose secondly, in terms of does that necessarily link to my manifesto, I would argue that a lot of my sort of points on my manifesto are sort of more focused on the short term, but that's only because I think the bulk of the impact of the year will be made around the very start of the year when the university is making a lot of decisions around how we move forward throughout this period. Does it necessarily link as to why I want to run? Probably not. As I think Will summed it up really nicely there, it's stuff that I want to do within the role, not why I want to run for the role. But yeah, I would love to have the support and the faith of the experience and understanding and moving forward. But yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Henry. And we'll move next to Katie. We'll get you up. Here we go. So ready when you are, Katie.
Okay. So as for the reason I want to run for the role, it's because I basically want to make the most difference to the most people as possible, which people who are close to me will know that my plan back in March was if I did get elected as VP for the year, my next step would be to go for president in my second term, because I wanted to, well, as Henry just said, get to know the SU better, understand how it all worked. But that's why I'm running, is because I want to basically, with everything going on, I want to make this, it's a very important year and I want to make this as smooth as possible for as many students as possible. And I do think that's reflected in my manifesto, especially because I have a lot of links to community and to sustainability, and obviously inclusivity and diversity as well. So I feel like I want to make changes this year, which will be reflected in years to come, and not just this year or first semester or as long as COVID is with us, hopefully not very much longer. So I do think that it's reflected slightly in my manifesto, but obviously, as the others have said, it's not necessarily why we're running, and more so what we want to do. But I do feel like, you know, it's clear to see from what I've written out that I do want to make positive changes for the future, and for those positive changes to affect as many students as possible for the years to come.
Great, thank you very much, Katie. So we'll now move to Saqib. Okay, ready when you are, Saqib?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so off you go when you're ready.
So the reason I joined, I nominated myself for being the president of for the upcoming SAB election is just to, first of all, me as an international student up here in Bangor. First of all, I struggled a lot in terms of trying to know how to do this, how to proceed my work, first of all, and then in terms of a lot of the parts, I struggled a lot. So being an international student, the way I struggled, I believe that if I be the president of Undeb in this election, I believe that I can at least help out those international students who are struggling from the issue that they are having prior to coming up in here. That's my first priority. My second one is like, as for this role, I will try my best to help all those students who are also facing some difficulty issues such as through communicating with the lecturers, through their work, and so on. In terms of if the result is not been satisfied to them, so then I will try my best to help them out. Those are the reasons I'm trying to help. So I believe that that's the reason for me. If I get elected, I will help everyone up. So thank you for that.
Great, thank you very much, Saqib. And next to Alec.
Hello. So as for why I decided to run for the role, I hope to make a change in our university. Like, having been here for only a year, to be honest, I can see that the rest of the contestants would be more appropriate, to be completely honest with you. But still, I had some ideas that I wanted to go for. That's why I kept on going. I think it does kind of align with my manifesto, the fact that I would prioritize education and trying to survive this COVID-19 situation and still learn as much as we can as students, because I believe this is the most important thing. I do support, obviously, the equality part and the environment, being part of the School of Ocean Sciences myself. But I would mostly care about education more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, cool. So to our next question. So candidates, you'll have 2 minutes to answer this one. So the question is, how will you prioritise the response to the coronavirus pandemic, and how will you tangibly make sure that student views are taken into account and protect the student experience during your time in office? So I'll read that one out again. How will you prioritise the response to the coronavirus pandemic, and how will you tangibly make sure students' views are taken into account and protect the student experience during your time in office? So you'll have 2 minutes to answer this one, and we'll first go to Saqib for this one. Okay, Saqib, ready when you are.
Yeah. You see, first of all, COVID-19 is just a never-ending story right now, which I mentioned prior to introducing myself. So, as at the moment, I don't know what the situation will be in 2 months' time, in 3 months' time. But being the president of student union, to be the president of student union, the first thing I will do is, like, each day I will just give up to the date to the students, whether they are the returning students or the new students, regarding how will they be able to what steps they should do. And for some of the steps that I will be suggesting them is to first of all consult them with their personal tutors, and then personal tutors or their course director. That's my first priority I will give. And second of all, I will first of all I will see the issues of all of the students who are facing them, like whether if the student is suffering from any fever or became victim of COVID-19. I will try my best to help them from that, and also I will play a role of a bridge, that is between the student and the tutor and the lecturer or the tutor, to help them out sort of this problem. So that's how I can prioritize. Other than that, that's it for me. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Saqib. And we'll go next straight to Alec.
Hello. So actually, I think this question covers a lot of ground. It will be difficult to say 100% what my plans would be, because I am not quite sure how the university will choose to react to the whole pandemic situation, or the UK in general. But I do think that my manifesto kind of lines up with this, because creating an online platform for all students to share their ideas through there, and kind of allowing students to learn everything via an online platform could allow us to keep our distances, which will be gratefully appreciated by everyone in response to COVID-19 situation. I do think that we owe to help our students, especially the new ones, like the first year students, understand how important it is to conform to the norms of our school, and even, even have punishment, to be honest, with people who actually deliberately don't follow the rules, because the situation could turn from very good to very bad real quickly. And yeah, I think that's all.
Great, thank you very much, Alec. And we'll go now to Will. Okay, when you're ready, Will.
Yeah, so obviously it is going to be the big story this year. It's going to be the big issue, and there's no other way, that it won't be. What I would like to do is, I mean, personally, I had a pretty good experience with the online teaching and learning towards the end of last academic year, but I know that others maybe didn't. So I'd like to open up. I'd like to become approachable. I would like to make it so that if anybody has any issues with the current situation, the online teaching and learning, and the information they're getting from the university, they can come to me, and I'll create this sort of open dialogue with the university to make sure that students get what they need right now. Obviously, moving forward, I understand the university has said that going forward they'll look to introduce seminars and things again when it's safe to do so, and I'd like to make sure that that's done as soon as it's safe and practical per government and scientific advice. In terms of the student experience going forward this year, I'd like to make sure that clubs and societies currently have what they need to operate their activities online where possible, and then going forward I'd like to make sure they have the support from the university and the students' union to make sure that they can restart and continue their activities in a safe manner, whether that be training where it's social distancing can be abided by, if it's just fitness sessions where the 2 metre or the 1 metre plus gaps can be kept. But I'd like to make sure that the university and the students' union does everything we can to make sure that the student life gets back to normality as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Will. And now we'll move to Henry. Off you go, Henry.
Yeah, cheers, Rob. How would I prioritise response to coronavirus with students in mind on the experience? I think the most important thing is to recognise the platforms at which the student union is necessarily given in terms of all these meetings and panels, boards with the university. I would look to expand forum and increase all students' awareness in how they can feed in to the student voice and ensure that their voices are well represented and heard at Undeb. Obviously, following that forum, we then take a template of what the students want and then are able to effectively represent those views on all of the decision-making panels where they will have an impact. So that is essentially how I'd look to do that moving forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Henry. So, and lastly, for this question, we'll move to Katie. So whenever you're ready, Katie. Oh, I think you might be muted, Katie. We'll just get the sound back for you. Give us a second there. Can we hear you, Katie? Give us a shout. Ooh, not at the minute. We'll just bear with us a second. We're just getting Katie back for you guys, and hopefully we'll get the sound in a second. Can you hear us?
Hello? Yeah. Hello?
Give us a shout, Katie.
Hello?
Yeah, okie dokie. So, right, you go, ready when you are.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so obviously I understand the pandemic. The thing that I'm ill with right now is actually coronavirus. So I do understand the anxiety around it, especially that a lot of students will be facing, especially ones who are maybe immunodeficient or otherwise unwell. So I do understand, obviously, the importance of it firsthand. So I think, obviously, the most important thing to do is to keep students up to date with every single thing that we are doing as Undeb and as a university to firstly, obviously, ensure their safety, but also to ensure and encourage their welfare. Obviously, I am all one for being welcoming and open, so I plan to have sort of focus groups, especially for students who might be a little bit more out of the loop, such as international students, student parents and carers, mature students that aren't necessarily going to be on campus in the same way as others are. And I want to make sure that their views are taken into account by me personally and also by the university. And as I touched on earlier, I want to make sure that the university does know every single thing that is important to the students in terms of opportunities and beyond, and make sure that those are taken into account with every single decision regarding the pandemic. I also want to protect the student experience by trying to bring these opportunities back in some way as soon as possible and as safely as possible. Obviously, AU stuff that's outside, it'll be a little bit easier, but for things like volunteering projects and societies, I want to work with them to, and obviously with Katie too, to make sure that they are listened to and that they are able to do something at least similar to what they would be doing without this pandemic.
Great, thank you very much, Katie.
Thanks.
Cool, so we're on to our third question then. So you'll have 1.5 minutes for this one, everyone, and it's sort of moving on to a similar sort of question, I guess, linking everything to the issue of the day, which is coronavirus, but a slightly different take on it, I guess. So if elected, how will you ensure that Undeb Bangor priorities won't be forgotten? So these other Undeb Bangor priorities that we might have, how will they not be forgotten? And what do you believe is the most important area to focus on in the coming year, other than coronavirus? So that's if elected, how will you ensure that Undeb Bangor priorities won't be forgotten? And what do you believe is the most important area to focus on in the coming year, other than coronavirus? And we'll move to Katie for that one first. So when you're ready, Katie.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so I think the biggest priority of Bangor as a whole is education. Obviously, Undeb is there to support students outside of education, but in order to improve education, if that makes sense. So obviously, I'd want to work with the university to make sure that every student is getting the best access to their education as possible. In terms of Undeb, I feel like our priorities are to support, like I said, to support students in all ways. I think the most important aspect to focus on this coming year is welfare of students and the quality of the education and experience they're going to get at university. I do think that despite all of this, Bangor can and most likely will really succeed this year. It's just about making sure that students know that there isn't any anxiety around it, that everyone knows exactly what's going to happen. And I want to make sure that that continues to happen, whether that's through social media, through online focus groups, through one-to-one Teams meetings, if Teams works for me. I want to make sure that every student feels like their voice is listened to and that their problems are being taken further up if needs be.
Great, thank you very much, Katie. And we'll move straight on to Will. Okay, Will.
So obviously, while it is going to be the big issue, it would be, I think, easy to concentrate far too much on it and forget the other parts, the other things that the SU has to concentrate on. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to probably time manage myself into a situation where, I've got days and time specifically reserved for non-COVID issues, to make sure that things aren't forgotten, to make sure that there's links between me and the student body, as so they can get in contact with any other issues that aren't at all COVID related. And I think for the coming year, the most important issue, barring COVID-19, is making sure that the quality of education keeps up and the welfare of the students, particularly the mental welfare of the students, is something that we continually push because of these lockdown periods and the issues they may have caused, the long periods of social distancing. Making sure that the university and the Students' Union provide the appropriate and safe support for students is something I feel very strongly about. Making sure that while it may not be safe for things like the counselling service to operate in a normal way, making sure that things like online appointments may be available, and making sure as well that the university takes seriously its obligations to provide this online teaching and learning material in such a way that it's accessible for all students, regardless of any disability or learning condition, and making sure that the material and the way it's taught will not affect them adversely in the coming exams and assessments over the course of this academic year. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Will. And we'll go to Saqib now. So ready when you are, Saqib?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. As I stated earlier previously, like COVID-19 is always being a never-ending story. I will mention this thing over and over again. Sorry for if I'm saying this thing again. So the first priority that the students should do is just to look after their health. So even though if the situation is really intense, like the deadline is coming up or things like that, then the student should first of all, the job of the student is just to approach to their respective tutors or the lecturers. If they can't go through there, then they should approach to us. And me, in my perspective, I would suggest that I will just try, like I said, I will try to make a bridge between the student and the lecturers and help them to sort out the issues that they are having. Number two, for the international students, like there is a certain range that they should graduate, like for instance from September to September. So what if they can't able to complete their work within the term? Then I will also try to help them out through the international's office and try to let them know that these are the issues that they are having. So this is how I believe that I can help them out to sort that. And the first priorities that the student should do is to just look up.
If I ask you to start wrapping up there, please, Saqib, you're 1.5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move to Alec now.
Yeah, hi.
Ready when you are, Alec?
Yes. So, as I said, like my top priority is going to be education. My ideas for creating a seminars platform where students, university, and I guess future employers can share ideas and exchange knowledge is very important. Vital part of expanding our existing education system in a modern, innovative way, just so we can show as a university that we came out stronger from the virus and not weaker. Then, of course, we got the environment. Respecting our campus and university is important to continue recycling and not just our knowledge, and making sure people live in clean rooms and shared halls. Although I'm not quite sure how this could work this year or how shared common rooms will function, I do also believe that bringing the course representatives this year in to help inform the students and talk with them while they talk to the students is very important, because as I recall last year we had some issues with that, and yeah, I guess this is what I stand for.
Cool, great. Thank you very much, Alec. And we'll move on now to Henry for this one.
Yeah, I think, well, somewhat of a loaded question. I think Undeb Bangor's priorities will always be education and student well-being. It's just at the moment we're going to have to tailor how our approach to that, in terms of we're going to need to adapt in the short term to ensure that that coronavirus has the least impact on students as possible. So I just think it's important to remember what we're here for. We're always here to do our utmost for the student education and the student well-being through providing the services that they need their time through uni, as well as the opportunities. And I feel like that scope will never be forgotten about. It's just almost the initial firefighting of dealing with coronavirus. What we need to do is push the university in partnership with ourselves to produce a plan in the short term that's able for us to adapt and to cope with the situation and allow us to continue on our normal path of development, which is always the aim. So yeah, that's my answer. Thank you. Great.
Thank you very much, Henry. Cool. So we come to our next question now. So this is a question about our sort of how we work with our IMCBA president, which is Undeb Bangor, or our Welsh Students' Union president. So for you that don't know what IMCBA is, it's the Welsh side of the Students' Union, the Welsh Students' Union. So the question is, how will you work with the IMCBA president to ensure that the university does not forget about its bilingual policy when dealing with returning to campus? So how will you work with the IMCBA president to ensure that the university does not forget about its bilingual policy when dealing with returning to campus? They're going to have 1 minute each for this one, and we're going to go to Henry first.
Sure. How will I work with them? I would just have to say in complete partnership. I think whenever a sabbatical officer takes on the role within Undeb, they need to remember the fact that it's a representative position, but also the crucial thing within Undeb Bangor is that we are a bilingual university, and that needs to be equally represented at the Undeb level. So through the president and the IMCBA president working in very close partnership to enable that crucial aspect of the university that's been so historic is not lost moving forward. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Henry. And over to Katie. So off you go when you're ready, Katie. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously, as Henry's just said, working in complete partnership, you know, both the elected and the IMCBA president are both presidents of effectively the same thing, just in different languages, and obviously different cultures. So I would obviously work with them to make sure that bilingualness isn't lost. We are a bilingual university. We're a Welsh university. We are obviously, you know, built in the mountains of hundreds of thousands of Welsh people before us, and you know, we can't forget that. So I'd obviously work with them to ensure that the language and culture are kept, you know, such as trying to get funding so that more people can attend the university's Welsh lessons, for example, and obviously bringing in people, once it's allowed, bringing in people from the local community to obviously share their stories, and obviously working with the Friend Cymraeg programme as well, to ensure that the language is taught all around.
Great, thank you very much, Katie. And now we'll move to Alec.
Well, actually, I think this question shouldn't even exist. Like, we are studying in a Welsh university in Wales. I feel like not only are we equal with everything that's happening and completely bilingual, but they should probably even be having the upper hand in these situations and everything that's going around. Like, we don't really have to change anything. Our university is already a Welsh university, and we have adapted to have English as well, essentially. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And over to Will now for this one. When you're ready, Will.
I hate to sound like I'm parroting the other candidates, but there's no way that this would be achievable without working in complete partnership with the IMCBA president. It's understandable that Welsh-speaking students might feel more comfortable talking to a Welsh speaker, which is, is fair enough. And so I think if I was elected as the SU president, working with the young president, making sure that the concerns of the Welsh speaking students, especially in terms of bilingualism, are taken directly to the university, and making sure that is protected for all students who wish to use it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Will. And to Saqib for this one.
Well, like the other candidates have said, first of all, the Welsh student, as the Welsh students, if they feel uncomfortable speaking with English speaking, then we should provide someone to help to be there as a bridge to help us, the English students. Other than that, like the others have said, we should create a teaching session for learning the basics of Welsh for those people who doesn't understand Welsh, and also the overseas student who are eager to learn about Welsh. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Saqib. Cool, so we're on to our next question now. So our next question is, how come you all want to be president now and not in March when there was the original election? So how come you all want to be president now and you did not want to in March when there was the election was originally? So you've got 1 minute for this question. So we'll move first to Alec.
Sure. Hi. I guess I don't even recall when all of the previous election happened, because I was kind of busy getting back to my country, to be honest with you. I had to organize both my studies and my travels and all the expenses. So I honestly thought that I wouldn't have the time to care so much and try to explain what I want to do for the next year. I think not right now we have more time on our hands to kind of explore more of our options now that the COVID-19 situation has obviously moved forward. So we have done too. And yeah, I feel like we're more ready now. I feel personally more ready now.
Great, thank you very much, Alec. And over to Henry now.
Sure. I've been asked this question a few times. I think it's purely circumstantial. I feel like it's really important that we have someone with experience doing the role of president at the moment. And probably back in March when we had the original election, I felt like I could trust the union to be in safe hands with my mate Harry Riley. But obviously, since his good news, circumstances dictate that I thought it best that I would run for the position following that resignation. But yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you, Henry. And we will move to Katie now. We'll just get you on the screen, Katie.
Okay.
Off you go.
Okay. So obviously, as I mentioned earlier, my plan was always, if I did get the vice president position, to then run for president in my second term once I knew a bit more about what was going on. And I do agree with Henry that obviously I thought Harry was going to be, he would have been a fantastic president, but obviously good luck to him in the future and everything. The reason that I'm running now is because it was always my plan to go for president eventually. Sorry, I've effectively just brought my plans forward a year. And I've just adapted my my values, which have never changed. I've just adapted them to encompass the whole university as opposed to just societies and volunteering, which is what I was going for before. And obviously, as again, to repeat everyone else, we need a strong candidate to carry us through all of this and to bring ourselves stronger on the other side, which I feel fully capable of doing.
Great, thank you very much, Casey. So over to Will for this one.
Yeah, so at the time of the election in March, it just wasn't the right time for me, I think, to run. I was in that sort of period of, starting with the exam stress and assignment stress of being a final year student. And I think with the sort of start of the lockdown around that time as well, the concerns over what COVID would cause, it just wasn't the right time for me. But I think that now I'm past that, and I think the things I can bring to the Students' Union moving forward will be of great benefit to the student body.
Great, thank you very much, Will. So we'll now go to Saqib.
So being an MSc student, the month of March was one of the most intense for all of the MSc student like me. So as a result, I was stuck with assignments, group reports, and so on. So therefore, my main focus was to complete up my studies and to get a degree. So at the end, all those assignments was building up a pressure. But however, following this COVID-19 situation, I've decided like the opportunities based on my degree will be less as due to this current situation. So that's the reason I'm just giving a tryout in here to let's see if people think that I'm the right candidate to vote for me. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so we're on to our second to last question. We've got 2 more questions lined up. So if there are any real burning questions that you want answering, then you can put them in the Q&A box now, and our team behind the scenes will look through them. And if we get time to sort of get them to the candidates, we will do. But we are on a bit of a time limit for this event too. But yeah, do feel free to put any last minute ones in now, and we might get round to asking them. Okay, so next question is, what do you feel you can bring to the role to improve inclusivity within Bangor University? So that's, what do you feel you can bring to the role to improve inclusivity within Bangor University? And you've got 1.5 minutes for this question, and we'll go to Henry first.
Sorry, could you just repeat the question one more time, Rob?
Yeah, of course.
Just trying to read it.
Yeah. So what do you feel you can bring to the role to improve inclusivity within Bangor University? Yeah,
sorry about that. Essentially, I feel like I've already got a year's experience trying to be as inclusive as possible throughout the whole year. I had a massive engagement piece driving me last year. I feel like in order for any sabbatical officer to be as effective as possible, it is really important that they are as in touch with students as possible, because it literally just makes the job easier if you understand what students want moving forward and you're able to represent that. In terms of inclusivity, obviously we've got some short-term challenges in how we get together without physically getting together, and that just requires the Undeb to be, adaptive and come up with some new ideas and essentially facilitate student groups to do that in whatever way they feel possible themselves. But yeah, those are the things I'd look to. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Henry. And we'll go to Katie for this one now.
Okay.
You ready, Kate?
Yeah. Okay, so obviously inclusivity was a massive part of my campaign back in March. It's a massive part of my campaign now. As I said, it's one of my values that I've just carried over. Obviously, we are one of the most international universities in Britain, which is something that I find absolutely amazing, and I do think that celebrating our diversity through that is a part of inclusivity. Obviously, we get a lot of international students and a lot of students from varied backgrounds, such as parents and carers, disabled students, LGBTQIA students, Black minority ethnic students, and so on. So I do feel like it's really, really important to obviously ensure that every single student gets the same amount of opportunities as, any other student. And I feel like as part of ensuring that, I do want to make sure that there are, like I said, like online focus groups and things like that for students of varied backgrounds, so that, their direct words are heard by myself or by whoever is relevant, and it can be carried forward to the university, and so the university does make strong movements in the correct direction for every student to be involved. Obviously working with sort of students maybe who have educational needs as well, to ensure that everything is as accessible as possible to them.
Great, thank you very much, Katie. And we'll go straight to Will.
So my big thing with this question, I think that the Students' Union has a huge commitment to maintain and increasing inclusivity and diversity throughout both the university and Students' Union activities. And I think my big thing is approachability. I'd like to be approachable to students both on sort of public forums, if it's things such as this, or whether it be via email or just in person. And I'd like to hear the issues students have and to make sure that, any problems they have regarding inclusivity, whether it be things they feel they can't do with the university because of a certain characteristic or a certain thing, or, you know, they feel that they maybe wouldn't fit into a certain thing within the students' union and the student body as a whole. I'd like to make sure they have that link to me so I can, you know, try and sort out with the other sabbatical officers any issues they may have in terms of their inclusivity or any diversity related concerns throughout my time in office. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Will. And over to Saqib.
Well, as an international student up here, like I faced a lot of issues and problems and struggles that I've been through. So the things that I can do, that I can bring about, is just to create a network between all the upcoming international students with the student union, in such as if they are facing difficulties in terms of language barrier or anything, then we can have a lot of interpreters or anyone to help them out. That's the thing. And second of all, if I being the president, like the things that I can improve is, like, first of all, like education is the main thing. First of all, so in terms of education, that I was telling about, bringing the barriers that they are having. And second of all, I would suggest that I will do, or I'm planning to do, is like making the university environmental friendly. So that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Saqib. And now over to Alec.
Hello, hi. So I personally have also said in my manifesto that, of course, our bodies and souls are part of our freedom, and I will fight for the acceptance of both. For me, the different backgrounds and the multicultural identity of our university is what makes us so unique and what makes us strong, coming together even during these difficult times when we can't really be together. But I do feel that we need to accept people for their ideas and who they are, and not a bunch of labels. For me, it's very important, and I wish to ensure that not just our university, but the entire community of Bangor feels the same way. Of course, working close with our societies and our representatives for each school is vital to achieve that. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Alec. Okay, moving on to our next question, and likely our final question as well. So this question is, you're going to have 1 minute for this question, guys. So the question is, what are the candidates going to do differently from the people that have previously held the position? So what are the candidates going to do differently from the people that have previously held the position? And you've got 1 minute for this, and we'll go to Saqib first for this one.
So first of all, like so based on our those candidates, they will have their different types of the positions that they will hold, is like, as usual, as I said, like helping up the students who are facing problems, or trying to find out what type of needs the students need. It can be, the needs can be of anything. It can be regarding with food, or regarding with living or accommodation or staying, etc. Those are the needs I think the candidates should do. So that's from my perspective, I believe.
Great, thank you very much, Saqib. And now to Alec.
Sure. This is an interesting question, actually. I don't believe, like previous candidates or previous presidents, to be specific, did anything wrong. I don't feel like in my previous years in Bangor, anything was not functioning as it should have. I do wish to help right now because of the difficult situation due to COVID-19, and I guess this is the main difference that I will try to make, to cooperate with everyone and conform to all the norms that our school will define, so we can all be safe. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Alec. And we'll go to Katie now then.
All right.
Yep, off you go, Katie.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, in my time here, I have seen 2 presidents, Ruth and Mark, and I think they both did great in their own ways. But I feel like, you know, obviously everyone's going to do something a little bit different. I feel like it's kind of not fair to compare as easy as it is. So obviously I will hold my values very, very, very close to me. And I plan to be very, very engaged with students at all levels. I want to be, you know, the sort of president that isn't sat in an office all the time. Not to say the other 2 did that, obviously, but just sort of that's my view on it. I want to be engaged with students at all times. I want to be very much part of the student body as much as I am a president of the SU. So that's something that I would, in my opinion, do differently, is put more emphasis on that.
Great, thank you very much, Katie. And over to Henry.
Thank you. It's an interesting question. I've had the pleasure of obviously working alongside Harry recently in him doing the role, and also the pleasure of working very closely with Mark, who was also my housemate. So I got to see a lot of stuff that he was doing throughout his time in office. I think certainly one thing that I'd look to do differently than anyone else is obviously steer the ship home during this really challenging period. Obviously, it's never been seen in the sector before, but particularly one quality that I'd look to take forward on is the financial scrutiny of the whole SU budget. I feel like having more of a financial oversight in this period will allow us to enable the most efficient use of resources in what will be a really financially troubling period for the whole higher education sector. So that's what I'd look to do. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Henry. And finally to Will.
Well, I sort of think by virtue of this year and the issues that obviously we're having globally, the role and the way it's carried out will have to be, you know, very different to how it's been done previously. Obviously, there will be less opportunities for face-to-face contact, for panels and discussions and that type of thing. But I think the thing I would like to emphasise throughout my term, if I am elected, is this link between myself and the students. I'd like to be extremely approachable, as you know, so students can come to me with any problem, knowing that I'll do my best with the other sabbatical officers to make sure that any problems are rectified in a timely and proper manner. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Will. Okay, so basically, guys, the voting is now open. So you can go and vote. I'd like to say a massive thank you to our candidates for participating in the candidate question time. Hopefully we can all give them a huge round of applause from afar. I know that I think they did a great job. So huge round of applause to you guys. And apologies, we have some technical issues. I think it's amazing to see our candidates get involved like this online. You know, it's not easy, it's different. And thank you for you guys at home for watching and tuning in as well. So as I said, you can go to undebbangor.com/elections to vote. Voting is open now. It will be open until Friday at midday. You need to rank your candidates, so it's not just a cross in a box. It's not just about who you think's the best, it's who you think your second preference, third preference, fourth preference is. So please make sure you put 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s and 5s in those boxes. They do make a difference for candidates. And finally, we're in really weird times at the moment. We can't get out there on the ground campaigning, getting you guys to vote. We're out of term time as well for you guys. So it would be we would be hugely appreciated as a students' union if you could help spread the message to get as many students to vote as possible. We want lots of people voting, and we know that's going to be harder than ever. It's all online, so it's easy. So if you could share that link, that undebbangor.com/elections on your social medias, that would be a huge help to us at the students' union to try and get this shared as widely as possible. So thank you very much again for those who's tuning in. Thank you very much to our candidates. A big well done. And we will hopefully see you soon. Oh, and if you're just wondering about the results, they will be announced live via our social media channels on Friday afternoon, hopefully sometime around about 3 p.m. So keep tuned for that as well. Thank you very much.